Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. Today, I have a treat. I'm going to introduce you to my dear friend, Emily Dukes. She is an amazing sound healer, and we met when we were both starting our spiritual journey together. So she is very dear to my heart. It is amazing to go through this type of spiritual journey with someone and see each other as we both evolve, as we both move forward and discover and remember who we truly are. And so I'm going to bring her in so that you can meet her, and then you'll get to hear all about her story. Okay. Yay. So she is. Here's Emily. How are you, Emily?
I'm doing so good. I love being here with you, Valeria.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming to my show. I'm so excited for the audience to hear more about you and your story and all the wonderful things that you're doing with sound healing.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Yay. So, I was telling the audience that, we both met while we both were starting our spiritual journey, and how precious that is to have someone that could witness you as you are developing and remembering your gifts and who you are and all that. Do I tell the audience a little bit more about your own personal experience while you were going through your awareness and awakening?
Yeah, what a beautiful full circle this is, because I completely remember joining the breathwork group. And I remember you were the first person to say, "Oh, I can feel your energy from here. I can't wait to meet you on the video call." And I felt so welcomed and so connected with you from the beginning. And what a wild ride it's been, because we were both really starting to uncover, I really feel like I can do this, but what is this? And then the beautiful evolution of your story, mine, and now we're doing a podcast together.
I know. How does it get any better than this?
Yes, I love it. So yeah, I definitely would say that the beginning of my awakening journey began when I joined Elise Bassine's Metamorphosis with you, and was at the time feeling a giant call to do something major. I didn't know what it was yet. I just knew that things were not feeling. I was feeling like there was more. There had to be more. And I had a bachelor's degree in retail and consumer science. It was a Bachelor of Science, and I had worked some sort of, usually clothing and jewelry retail, for like 20 years. And I was still doing management and buying at a lovely job with bosses I cared about, 401k, steady paycheck, all of the things.
All of the Matrix things.
Lovely. Nothing bad on paper, nothing bad in
Mhm.
reality, really. Just starting to listen to my gut that I didn't want to be doing that anymore. I wanted to do something else. And so I think that the big part of it happened. Yes, I was doing the breath work, but then I got really sick. I don't know. It was right before the COVID time. Did I have COVID? I don't know. Maybe it was the flu, but I was pretty much incapacitated for weeks. Like, it was like 3 weeks where I felt like I had no energy. I had to be in bed all the time. And during that time, I started to receive a series of, I will call them downloads. I don't know what else to call it, but a deep knowing about my purpose and about sound healing. I was born into a family where, my dad's an amazing musician. He can play any instrument. He would wake me up, with the guitar singing. He taught me how to sing when I could walk. So music and like what that felt like in my soul was always a part of me. And then I go into it in my bio, but I got a long lineage of musicians. My grandmother could have been a concert pianist, and my great uncle wrote the orchestral suite, The Planets, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, my son knows that one.
Things, yeah. That the Tucson Symphony recently did it, and the conductor brought me up and was like, "This is Gustav Holst's great niece."
Wow, how does it get into that? Then it is amazing.
So I think that speaks to that when people are talking about, oh, you want to know about your life purpose, you want to know about your past lives, you want to know about these deep soul contracts, things like that. Take a look around you. What family did you choose to incarnate into? What's around you? What to your soul, right? And so while I was sick and in bed, I was feeling all of these things about, well, I mean, surely I know I'm not meant to be a professional musician, because I never did pick up an instrument, even though they tried. I played piano for some years, but I love to sing. I love to sing in my family band. But I felt like whatever my connection was to sound and music wasn't going to be traditional. It wasn't going to be in the traditional trajectory. I also experienced major stage fright, like the whole like getting up on stage and all eyes on me performance hasn't always that's not what calls to me. I love the intimacy of doing what I do, which is teaching people how to make chakra tones with their own voice. But I will say, yeah, I think the start of it was these dreams and memories that started coming in about ancient Egypt. I was having vivid remembrances of being in sound chambers, feeling like, oh, the pyramids were used for many things, none of which were tombs. It was about regeneration using sound technology, among other things, among the fact that they're on quartz beds in their aquifers. And I think there's many layers to what was actually going on there. But ever since I was a child, I was obsessed with ancient Egypt. I had a blow up sarcophagus in the corner of my room.
Oh my gosh.
All my art was on papyrus. I read every book about Egypt. I just was obsessed with it, fictional and otherwise. And my mom told me, she was like, you would say weird things like, oh, that's not how that happened. That's not what they were doing there. And I was like, really? I said that? I don't even remember that. But I know that the obsession came from forgotten knowledge, we'll say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to just stop here for a minute and just like to let everyone know, like just like Emily was like so attracted to Egypt and the tombs and the pyramids and all of that, as she was remembering who she was or her past lives or where she came from. If you are having or recognize that you have had some type of relationship through your whole life with something other than that you can't explain, then that's a hint for you that that's part of your past. That's part of what you're supposed to remember. That's part of what your soul has been living through and sending you messages as to like, hey, this is the road, this is the way. So like we all have a piece of that we begin to remember, and you will find it. You'll find this gems in your childhood, just like you did. Like you're like, oh, I had all of these things and I said these wisdom things that I don't remember saying, right? Yes. How amazing is that?
Absolutely. And it's also said that you want to know about those deep connections, just look around your house, or what are you just completely drawn to apparently for, no reason, except it's every reason, right?
Mhm. I just saw somewhere, I think it was another podcast that I happened to catch on, and it was all about, it was another podcast. There are other cultures, like in Zimbabwe and different places of the world, where they sing all the time within their communities, not like, not the commercial singing, but they sing, and they teach the children to sing. They teach strangers or tourists to sing. And the thing is that when the person that they're teaching them to sing, that's not part of the community, is able to sing as well, then that's when they're actually healed.
Oh my gosh, that makes sense in every portion of my body.
Right? How beautiful is that?
It's so beautiful. I mean, and it's like, yeah, the throat chakra, what we speak, this is all vibration that is then bringing everything around us into creation.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially when we're bypassing language and we're just using these primordial tones that we're all born knowing, but then society comes in and is like, oh, don't make a weird noise. Oh, it's those cultures where they spend days processing their grief by doing these deep guttural tones to move that energy through the body, and that's how they're expressing grief or joy or to me it seems like the most ancient medicine, because even in the grand scheme of creation, it's understood by our tiny little 3-dimensional brains that the first thing to exist was a sound wave, right? So what can we do with that? How do we translate that in this embodiment into healing? So I think just a big piece of it is what I do with my clients is just teaching these tones and then allowing the person to feel into that and to feel and allow the body to take over, and then move what needs to move, invite in what needs to come in, because it's such a beautiful co-creation. Anything to do with sound, words, spells, all of those things are all a piece of the bigger picture that is that sound is creation. I love looking at those pictures of the cymatics, cymatics. There's a lot of people photographing water underneath high-powered microscopes and seeing how sacred geometry is formed with various frequency, right?
I love those too.
Oh, I can just look at that all day. So let's think about that. Okay, our body is 80+% water. What can we do if we intentionally charge the moisture in our body? And so we're sending that frequency into our vessel, our bodily altar, and then we're also expressing it through the vapor that is coming out. All of those water molecules are charged with that tone. I mean, that is pure magic right there. That is healing and creation.
Absolutely. And I really love what you said about how you love to teach people how to make those sounds to release what's stuck within them. I just had a somatic healing the other day where I was encouraged to just let go whatever came out. And my throat chakra was so tight and it was so resistant that I felt like I wanted to make noise, but I couldn't. And I knew that this was the conditioning of, screaming is not okay, or, making wild sounds are not okay. And so I really had to work through it. I had to physically bring my hands to my throat and massage it to allow the sound to actually come out and release. And then, of course, it was amazing. But this is all of that conditioning of like, no, don't make those noises that you're being, right? As a child's like making weird noise. My son, Peter, makes all these weird noises all the time. And I just crack up laughing, right? And my husband,
because as a child, you're not conditioned. You don't try to stifle that or keep that hidden. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember doing that as a child too. I remember listening to English music while I was in Chile and they didn't speak English, and just making whatever noises sounded like the words and singing them. And my brother was doing, and we were having so much fun. And we were just making sounds, right?
Yes, it's so freeing. And actually, it reminds me, you know, I've done sessions with you, you've done sessions with me, helping me facilitate a light language. That's like not something that I'm as familiar with. And we both were helping each other, just holding the space to be like, okay, no. And then you had me vibrating my chest and then just like letting whatever come out. That was so phenomenal. And I want to, I guess, set the tone at that. I feel like I'm a facilitator. I'm teaching these tones, but then I'm also not saying, oh, yours needs to sound exactly how mine sounds, because there's no way it could or would. And
Exactly.
so individual, our vessels are so unique. So what I'm just basically holding the space, teaching the tones that work for me and the mouth shapes to use the body as the instrument. But then it's all about the person feeling into that that truth, and that, oh, there it is. And then understanding like, oh, okay, I can feel that in my pelvic floor, like that my root does need to move that. Or, you know, it's so individual. And I've never liked, I'll say, when someone is like, I have the ultimate
yes,
to everyone's thing, and this is the only way. It's like, I know that this is powerful medicine, but it's yours. It's all of ours. It's just something that we can explore together. But then ultimately the practice becomes so much of an individual experience.
Yes, I completely 100% agree with that. I always teach my clients, like, feel into it, even if it's coming from your guys. If it's not feeling good to you, it's not for you right now, right? So it's like you have to feel within you what's good and what sounds good. But I remember having that session with you when you showed me how to make all of those sounds for the different chakras, and it was really interesting because I had never experienced that before, and it was just so beautiful. And you could feel the vibration in your physical body as you're creating the sounds from your own body, your own mouth, your own throat is creating these sounds, and you feel the vibrations, you feel the shifts and the changes within you. So yeah, it's pretty magical.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yes. I feel like we're coming to a point too where we're just scratching the surface of what this is, what this can be. I think many of us, I know you included, are just reaching beyond what's even been taught. Like, I don't want to get a certification in something or other because I want to discover what's already within me. So I think that's a big piece of what I love about this too, is it's like, no, you don't need, I have them and I love them, but you don't need $1,000 of crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and all the things to do sound healing. Your body is perfectly designed to do it all. And it's right there with you all the time.
Your body is the instrument.
Yes, the body is the instrument. The body is the altar. So I like that piece of it too. And I'm not discrediting anyone who uses bowls. I love the bowls. Like, they're magical. And they just like, you know, when I'm doing my toning, sometimes I'll hold a crystal or whatever. All of it can be used. All the intelligences of this beautiful earth can be used to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Enhance, exactly. Enhance. Perfect. Thank you. That's what and it's all beautiful and I'm all for it. I think what I love about it for me is that it requires, the only investment it requires is the investment of like self, you know.
Yeah, I have my own little bowl here I bought.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the Tibetan bowls. I mean, and I love my quartz bowls. I love the crystal bowls. I have a tourmaline one. I think they're magical. I have a crystal pyramid that I loved.
Oh, I love your pyramid. I actually have been looking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want a pyramid just like Emily's. And it's just because, first of all, I'm a Taurus just like you, and I just love crystals. So anything that shines is like, I want it.
Oh yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're like raccoons. We want to take all of the shiny things to our lair.
All the shiny things. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and that's something that has always been within me too, is I'm a rock hound. I love finding nature treasures, treasure hunting in nature. I've got a whole thing of feathers and rocks and crystals and all of those things. And that just is reminding me of another sort of past life thing that comes up, is I know in some portion of time, or however we want to look at it, because it's not linear, definitely witchy vibes all over the place. I loved making wild and crazy potions, many of which were not drinkable, but
You know what? That's so funny you mentioned that. I remember when I was a child, I was making soups, like play soup with like the garden wildflowers and weeds. And now I'm like, oh wow, like I wonder if I was doing something other than that as well, because it felt so good. I also spent a lot of time outdoors on top of this huge tree trunk that had been cut off the tree, and it was just like laying there. And that was like my it was actually a vessel, like a spaceship for me, and I would just sit on there.
I love that. I love that so much. And that is, I mean, that's just part of that. Our imagination takes us to those places. You know, you were doing these soups and things, and that was completely your inner medicine woman being
Yeah.
like, hey, let's use some things from nature and let's make some potions.
Right. So here, those are the clues, right? Like the clues that when you start thinking back, then you're like, oh, that might have been something. Or I like, and of course, I had, I had a group of imaginary friends. It was like 4 or 5. I remember this. It was like 4 or 5. I would just run around my garden back and forth, and they would always chase me because I like that. like getting away from the evil or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
that was the games that I did. But I had these imaginary friends, and that's what I occupy my time with when I was a child. And now I'm like, are they real? Of course they were real, right?
Of course they were real. That's what's so hilarious, is like before that all gets tamped down and like, oh, we were like, oh yeah, these are my imaginary friends. They're right here.
Yeah.
I can remember being really young and playing this game where I would feel that feeling of like rising up out of my body, and then seeing my body. Like I wouldn't go anywhere. I would just like be playing with it. And then at some point, you're like, oh, like, am I supposed to be doing that? Like that seems like, I don't know. It's like the rules come in, and then
The
it's hard to get back.
rules.
It's
Yes. Yes, I love that, right? Something is coming through that I wanted to bring up to the audience, because this really seems to be a conversation of like putting together what we went through, what we already knew as children, that we forgot or blocked for whatever reason. And then as we're awakening for whatever reason as well, and for you, it really seems like your awakening came when you got sick and you had all that time to like, I can't do anything, I'm laying here and I feel like, really terrible. And then all of these downloads came to you, which is interesting, because I started feeling all of those things before I entered to work in that container that we were in together. But so why did you join that if you were not feeling that yet? Because you were already in that container and then after you got sick, and then you started receiving all this. So why did you do that?
because I mean, even though I feel like that was like a big part of my awakening. I think the seeds of my awakening started, well, since always, right? But definitely in my 20s, like I went to this place called the Synchronicity Center where they this wonderful woman, Trish Devaney, such a mentor to me, she would do like these circles. You would lay underneath an amethyst blanket, and then you would pick a name, and then everyone around it would like develop a song around it. And different people had different intentions. People were like, I'd like to cure my allergies, or I'd like this or that. And at the time, it was really wild and far out there to me, but I was like, ooh, there's something about this that I like.
Yeah.
I'm so on board for it. And I think that that was the sparks of remembrance. Like I would always have these dreams, and in my dream, I would remember, oh yeah, I have powers. Like I can manipulate the things around me. Goody, oh yes, here they are. And then, you're like, oh yeah, that was a dream. But I think that is a remembrance of at, some point in the time space continuum where yes, you can manifest instantaneously and have a direct impact over physical matter and all of that. So I guess in answer to your question, I had known Elise since my early 20s, magical being. She introduced me to like Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction. And so I was listening to those, on the CD in my car and like, whoa, yes, this is, and there's a lot of truth.
I think the whole world went, whoa, when The Secret came out.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I would say, I think that it was just a time where I said yes, and it at the time it also felt like a lot of money. Now I'm like, oh, like what better to spend money on than self growth, self improvement. Like I'd rather spend money and paying other healers than anything else, really.
So you didn't really know what you were going into. You were just going because you kind of had a knowing or like a trust in the person, and you just did it, and then all of this happened for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I said yes to that. And I'm thanking you so much for that. And you and the people in that container. And just that, really, that was the catalyst, like where I just completely had that explosion of knowing. And I mean, I'm thinking back to remembering when you were like, so I have this feeling that I can heal people remotely and also like with my hands. But I don't know, you know what I mean? And we're like, whoa, yes, of course you can. It's so obvious, but those were really big epiphanies. And really, it wasn't that long ago. Time and the way that things are moving feels so fast.
It does. And for those of you who don't know, and I've told my story several times, this is the person, this is the healer, Emily, who's the one who gave me that kick in the butt. I was like, just stop saying it and just do something about it. And thank goodness, right? Because I wouldn't have taken that step of like, I was healing people throughout. And every time I would do it, I would tell myself, oh, they just said that because they're my friends, or they're just doing that to help me, or they're just playing, or this wasn't true. I would do the thing, and then I would just take it away from myself. And so Emily here and this is where my doubt comes. So Emily was like, just do it already. We all can see what you're doing. And she was like so frustrated, like, okay, like how many times do I have to hear you say the same thing, And I was like, all right. And that's when I put out like this link, hey, I'm going to do these sessions, and all these strangers came. And that's when I actually believed for real that I could do it, because none of the people that were coming to me, I knew. So like if I had done a session on you, I would have been like, yeah, she just said that because she knows me, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to get past. And also it's hard to get past ourselves and get to that point where we really know that the magic is real, and that that feeling, like that tickle, like, can I heal people with sound? Can I heal people with my energy? Yes. And then the next step is then do it, like, because here, like, you can think and be up here. And
it's the conditioning, right? Because there's so much conditioning of the separation. You're not the divine. We are. You can't do things. We can, right? You can't scream. You can't express yourself. We can. And then the whole thing about, because I really had a huge, what do you call that? Something syndrome, imposter syndrome of who am I to say and or claim that I can do XYZ, right? And that was the fear. Like, what if I say I can do this and then I can't deliver? right? Meanwhile, I've been doing it for years, like just playing, getting results, and not giving it a second thought. But now that I'm claiming it, like all of those fearful thoughts and ideas enter my mind, and that's really what was holding me back.
Right. Well, going against all of that programming, I mean, this is a matrix in a lot of ways. It's a holographic world, like all those things. There is so much to those, to having to buck those rules and those really the doubts that are put in from very early programming that go against everything that's true, right?
Yeah, like if you connect with that, that's evil, right? Or I mean, this is where the witches were burnt at the stake because they were tapping into their own divinity. And no, we can't have you tapping into your own power. We have the power. You need to be separate, and that's why all of that happened, right? And so we carry that so heavily. I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic. You cannot get more indoctrinated than that.
True. Yes. Well, and even there, like, so it's like a lot of magic comes from many voices joining together in song, in chanting, and things like that. There's incredible momentum that's gathered from many voices together. And then there's been all of this stigma placed, on chanting. Oh, that's culty, or oh, like that's whatever judgmental language used. It's been, discouraged to do those things.
Yeah. There's been a lot of new information. Obviously, the whole world, the whole collective is awakening at a much rapid pace than it had before. So many more people are feeling into this and discovering things and remembering who they are and different things. And the message really is go for it. And also get that support, find your tribe somewhere, because without the tribe, I would still be playing with my gifts. I would still be doubting my gifts. I would still be just doing it for the people that are close to me that happen to know me. And I would offer and see if it works and then take it away from myself again. I would still be doing that if it wasn't for that support system that I had when I decided to invest on myself and do the thing. Because that is what brought me to the next thing. And there's no mistakes. There's no coincidence. Like I ended up in that place with you because you were going to be the one who kicked me on the butt, right? There was nobody else in that group who did that. It was you. So it's like
and vice versa. It was such a powerful experience. And you're absolutely right. I know for a fact that I was meant to be there because I needed that circle. Like, we need community right now. This is not the time for individualism. This is the time to share our gifts, talk about our experience, come together, pool our resources, in circle, in song, all of the things that is essential. And there's been a lot of obstacles trying to prevent that. COVID, quarantine, oh, everybody go hide in their own homes. Don't put your feet on the earth. All this draconian craziness, don't be around anyone. And then I don't know. I could really get off on a tangent there. I just remember when quarantine happened, and I heard somewhere or another that the number one show was in all of the land was The Tiger King. And I thought, oh, heaven help us, humanity.
Because I have never watched it.
No, I've never either, but I know that it's about animal abuse and drugs. So everybody's focused on that. Imagine if we had all done that and then all, owned and toned at the same time, what we could have created. I mean, I know that it's we're coming into a chapter where we need to learn, remember our gifts, and then come together, because it is a time to remember, we are all one. If we all come together with the intention of peace and healing our earth and healing our bodies, healing our trauma, that's when we're really going to gain that momentum to go into the golden age that I think we're all yearning for, right?
Yeah. I totally get that. And I think we're already past that threshold of going back. There's just so many people who have already become aware and starting on their awakening journey that there's no going back. And so it's just, this is why it feels like the world is just moving so much faster. Like this past school year, like Peter just finished school yesterday. Like what? Like the whole year went by, like he's off, right, for the summer. I'm like, what's happening? Right?
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah. I do feel like things have been moving incredibly quickly, more than
Yeah.
ever before. I don't know if that's a thing of getting older or if that really is a cosmic thing. I think it's probably a little bit of both, but yes, I know exactly what you mean.
I think it's both because I mean, I do remember as a child thinking that Christmas was so far ahead, you know, once you had just turned over the page in January. But now it just goes so quickly, and like I'm already thinking of like Christmas by like July. Sorry, people, I love Christmas, but but it just feels that way. But also, when I have a conversation with another friend or a healer, and then a couple of days go by, it feels to me as if I had that conversation a month ago,
Yeah.
because so much happens for me in my world between that day and the next that it feels like, wow, I could have never put all of this thing that just happened in 3 days. It must have been a couple of weeks or a month. But do you have that same feeling?
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm not an astrologist, but like cosmically and astrologically, there is so much going on that speaks to that. I think that we are absolutely in an age where we are meant to awaken, and we're meant to receive these light codes and these things from the sun, and all of this encouragement naturally happening to get out in nature and remember our true being and remember our divinity, and also connecting with the earth, connecting with like why we're here. And that, I think, just inherently relates with time.
Which doesn't exist. Yes. You
Only
know,
here.
over here on the Northeast, because I'm in Pennsylvania, there was I don't know if you heard, but there was this huge fire in Canada. And the smoke from Canada came into the States, and I would say about a third of the east of the US was covered in this smoke. And it came here to Pennsylvania, which is like miles. It's like, I think if I drove to Canada, it would be like 8 hours of driving. And it was
Wow.
down here where everything was just smoky. The sky was gray. You couldn't see the sky. It was all smoke for a couple of days. And I had this feeling of like, this is a cleansing of this whole area, to let go of the finger pointing, the blaming. And then I would see on social media some people saying, oh, thanks, Canada, like with that feeling. And I'm
Like it's Canada's
like
fault.
it's Canada's fault, right? It's the same thing when people are talking about the border, right? Oh, thanks for the immigrants coming in and messing us up. It's their fault. And all of this separation. But this whole smoke that came down really felt as like maybe like a huge saging of the area, to allow that feeling of connection of like, you know what, we are all connected. So if there is a fire up there in Canada, it's affecting me all the way down here. We are all one, and we're all in charge of taking care of the earth and doing the things. It's not about it's their fault and therefore they're inconveniencing me. It's more of like, oh, I'm connected with them, and how can we make this better together?
That is wild, and I totally agree with that. And then it gets me thinking about I was just reading about how, the whole planet has its own chakra system. So probably in some way or another, one of the United States or the planetary chakras got saged, cleansed, not saged. I suppose it was because it was wild.
Cleanse. It really felt that way. And obviously, you know, the awakening is happening for everyone at once. Everyone is awakening. And obviously there are people who have resistance and don't want to go into that area for whatever reason. And those people, those souls who are here and who are refusing that awareness, that awakening, they also have a good part in the whole awakening of the earth, because there always has to be the polarity, right? The light has to have the dark. And so Because some people are like, oh, everybody needs to awaken. No, everybody who wants to awaken, everybody who is ready to take on, go ahead. And those who are not, it's okay. That's their path. It's not our job to convince them to come my way because I'm having a much better time in my life because I am doing this work, right?
Yeah, well, that's what you were ready for. That is a beautiful sentiment because that is so true. And everyone is going to go through it exactly their own pace. And it's things are moving fast, but it's also going to be in our perspective, a slow moving process because a lot of systems are going to need to break down. There's going to need to be an entire overhaul of like everything to finally get to the place where we're really practicing peace and you know
community
and community. Yeah, but I love that. I think that is such a beautiful thought too, is just practicing compassion. That's where that person is on their journey. That's where those people are, remembering that anytime there's any sort of subject that's brought up that's causing division, like take a good look at that, because really there is no there isn't a black and white. There's so many different shades in the spectrum of everything. So yeah, practicing compassion, tolerance, temperance, like those are essential, I think, as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a very high frequency as well. You know, to send out that frequency of love and compassion to the world, even though they're not there. I mean, I can remember when I was like maybe a year into my own spiritual awakening, or a year of me doing the work, and seeing somebody who hadn't done any of it and seeing the difference, like, oh, I was there. Right. I remember being there. I remember being scared of the word witch. I so 100% remember that I was invited to this group to do heal the witch wound thing. And I didn't want to go because he had the word witch in it. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. Right? Like, what am I being invited to? And I was like so scared of it. Of course, I ended up going. And because I was doing so much work and I just worked myself up to it.
Yeah, you couldn't ignore that call any more than I could ignore a call like that. But I love that you're remembering and acknowledging that. And same with me too, about many things, including, the whole energy around the pandemic and things. Like, I was so frightened in the beginning, and until I started really thinking like, you know what? No, the reality that I create, it has everything to do with my thoughts and my perspective, my heart space. So what am I going to do about this? And I would say advice to anyone who's wanting to move in that direction, don't watch mainstream media. Carefully curate what you're bringing into your energetic field. If you do want to watch television, I'm all for most of the things on Gaia. If you're going to invest in Netflix and all of those things, my goodness, please also invest in Gaia so that you're getting like multiple perspectives. Read things that uplift, and surround yourself with people who uplift, encourage, and encourage the expansion of thought and possibility. Open-mindedness is everything right now.
I love that. Yeah. Like we don't watch TV at all. Everything that I watch is usually podcasts on YouTube and things like that are uplifting, that expand my own awareness, which is, things. And it's really all about what feels good to you. Oh, I know it was coming through. Be careful what you choose to look at, read, or even wear, because every word and image has a frequency.
Oh, yes.
And I have this story with Dr. Bradley Nelson. He is the author of The Body Code and also The Emotion Code. He was talking about doing work, energy work on a person. Everything worked all the time. And then this time he had this person and he's doing the thing and he's getting nothing. He's getting no answers, no communication. He's like, what's going on? What's wrong? And he notices that the back of this man's t-shirt had this like evil clown image. That was his t-shirt that he was wearing and he was on his back. And he's like, could that be? And so he asked him to like to remove the shirt, and then he does his healing and he goes through. And he's like, I can't believe it. And imagine that when you're wearing something that has violence in it, that has something that's scary, it's actually preventing you, the wearer, from receiving the light codes, from receiving the codes or the messages that are there for you. How incredible is that?
Holy moly. Yes. Oh my gosh. That is such a wild story. That completely reminds me of one time we were on a family reunion and my wife was wearing a shirt that said Obey, it was like that brand.
Uh-huh.
And my grandmother, who had dementia at the time, repeatedly got stuck on it. And she was like, well, what is it that I have to obey? And then she said it again, and I was like, Jen, not only do I want you to remove that shirt right now, because it's messing with my grandma, I want you to burn that. Like, I mean, and honestly, I really feel like the words and those things have so much power,
They do.
way more than we have ever been led to believe.
Mhm.
I've always heard that said, oh, words have power. Careful what you wish for. Careful what you speak. But I just see the truth of it tenfold nowadays, and I am trying to be increasingly conscious of
And
everything.
colors too. I remember years back, I was in my first marriage, I was in a really bad marriage. And I was in a job that I hated. I was working in New York City, and I would take the train to New York City, get off the platform, and during rush hour, and it was like a sea of people walking at the same pace. And I remember walking there with them and feeling like this feels like we're cattle. It's like this is the cattle moving, and it just didn't feel good. Everyone's wearing black. My closet was all black because that's what you were in New York, or at least you used to back then. And I remember that when I went through my divorce and I started getting rid of things, I remember getting rid of most of the clothes and walking by my closet and noticing there was color. And I was like, oh, that's different. And it has to do with the way we feel, right? The vibration of the color. Black absorbs our light. It doesn't allow light to come through, but the bright colors, they reflect the light, they invite the light, and then you actually uplift your mood. And this morning, actually, it was really cold here. I took my dog out and I'm wearing this tank top. And I was like, oh, it's a little cold. So I grabbed my husband's biking shirt, and it's this bright neon orange. And I put it on and I walk out and I felt different because I don't own anything that color because I don't bike. And I was like, this feels really good. And then I realized it was the frequency of that color that I was on me.
Yes, that's the sacral just shouting out right there. Wow, that is so. I love that you're bringing this up because I haven't really thought about that much. Except that my closet is organized by color because I very much am one to be like, what color am I in the mood for today? And it matters, and it definitely
does.
And I also remember because Elise and I used to work at a clothing boutique. And when she was moving back to Philly, she was like, oh, I can't wear any of this. Like, you just don't do these like colors on the East Coast. Like,
yes, the East Coast is the darkness, right? You have to be cool.
Like black. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's got to have an impact though on mood.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Wow. So, okay, so let's bring this together. Tell me a little bit more about how your sound healing works, so that the audience gets to get a little taste of like, okay, like why would I come to Emily? Like, what is it that she can bring out of me besides allowing all of those stuck energies to move through you, and also the teaching, right? You teach them how to create this vibrations with their own body. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So yes, my booking website is www.clairvocals.com. Clairvocal is actually a word with very high frequency that I invented or pulled from the ether somewhere because it's not actually a thing. And to me, it's like there's clairsentience, there's cognizance, there's clairvoyance, there's all the clairs, the 5 clairs, but really there's many more clairs. Like there's an intuitive knowing that you can then express vocally, that I thought, well, that's something clairvocal, like that's what I am. So I trademarked it and and then bought the website. And so my booking website is clairvocals.com. I have a Facebook group, Clairvocal, that you can request to be in. And then I am clairvocal333 on Instagram.
And I'll put all of those links in the description of the podcast too, so you don't have to be like looking it up, but you can just go down there and just copy paste.
Thank you, darling. And so yeah, and so what it looks like, I have many different types of sessions. I do tarot as well, but I always say, if you want to just dip the toe in, book an hour session, and we can run through them. But doing a slightly longer package is amazing, because basically, as I'm teaching you how to make these tones, I'm receiving all sorts of information the deeper you get into the work. So I've had anything come up from past lives, ancestors, spirit guide names, like different things for people to, like I'm feeling something like around like your liver. Like sometimes it's a 3D body thing, but I'm receiving lots of information. I'm listening, I'm teaching you how to do it. And then what occurs over time and practice, and the development of the practice, is that you'll be able to do that for yourself. You'll be able to feel, you'll be able to tune in, and it's about that attunement with your own body, and listening to the messages that you will receive when you get into this work, because it's to me, it's as essential as meditation. It's as essential as any practice that exists. Everything has to do with frequency, vibration. And everyone these days, and at least in our circle of healers, and that is like, raise your frequency. What are you going to do to raise your frequency? How do you raise your frequency? It's like, what more of a direct way to raise your frequency than to vocally, literally resonate a higher frequency in your body with your voice?
Yeah. And I love that what you mentioned about, working longer, because I have found this in my practice as well, that, when I have a single session, we can do so much. But when I see someone over and over and over, because they're in a longer container, what happens is that I get to really know them, right? And you get to know how they are, you get to see their patterns, you get to experience what blocks they have, because you're continually seeing them and working with them, and you cannot get that type of information from one session. So I find it so valuable to have that support when it goes more than just that one session, because you really can get a lot more done through there. So, I mean, I speak from experience, because obviously I have done single sessions with people, and I've also worked with people in longer containers, and it's always the longer containers that bring out the most benefits.
It's all great. And I am so appreciative of any time like I get to connect with anyone who's drawn to this work. But I love when people do like at least my 3-month mentorship, because it's like getting a baseline, and a lot of times in the very first session, I can't quite necessarily always get a client to even be able to make the sound, because it's so foreign. There are certain ones that are difficult for me, and then there's everyone's different, but there's usually at least a couple that the person can't even express right off the bat, because it's so the body, it has held that frequency in. Usually it's around some sort of trauma. But it's like anything, it's a practice. You don't like do one yoga session and you're like, oh my gosh, yay, I'm a yogi. Right? So I think the more time and devotion to it, it becomes exponentially powerful.
Yeah. And also I love that while they're working with you, they get to learn how to do it on their own and continue their practice once they have that. So it's kind of like going to school. Not only are you getting healed, but you're also like learning all of the tools so that when you're finished with that, then you're able to have these tools and continue to use them on yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And like, just like if anything, like meeting with me is a wonderful touchstone, but the growth and what's really going on is in those in between times when you're alone. Because I've yet to see it. The reckless abandon that can happen when you're completely by yourself, it is of course a little more free than if you're on, Zoom with another person. And
Yes.
as you get more comfortable and, everything, it certainly blossoms, but I know that I can get real weird with myself when I'm alone.
It's sacred. It's a sacred time when you're alone. I cannot let go of everything that I have to release when I know that my husband's working at home or that my child is in the next room. I can't let go. It's like I hold back and it's that condition still, right? And I've done so much work, but it's still that condition is like, don't be too loud, don't say something weird, right? And it's like,
Of course, we have been completely trained. Don't make any weird noises, don't burp, don't, which don't yawn. Those things are absolutely inherent expressions of energy. Like you need to do all those things.
yes, absolutely.
Trying to hold those down is because of society. I mean, that's crazy in itself. You'll poison yourself, you can't hold that in. That's not the way we're even designed. You need to expel that. That's how energy moves.
Yes.
Do you want to tone our throat chakra or something?
Okay, really quickly because I'm running out of time here.
Okay. All right, buddy. So the throat is one that I like to do to calm and cool the nervous system. So when I'm driving, before I make an important phone call, just a really excellent way to cool the nervous system. And it's a sound. You're really feeling it buzz in your ears. We'll do it together. I don't know how well it'll translate over the podcast, but
yeah, let's see.
And so I sing, speak, and vocalize with truth, intention, and clarity. I pretty much do that until I'm totally out of air. I cut it a little short because
I don't know if it went through. I did mine. It's funny because my dog like looked at me like, what's that? He's right here. And then so I stopped and then I watched you and the sound from you was not coming through. So I don't know if it went through. I hope it did.
Regardless, it did or didn't, it could be a lovely surprise. So I would love anyone who is listening to this and it's sparking something within them. I would love to work with. And thank you so much for having me. I just love being in your energy.
Yeah, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing this wonderful story and this great talk. I think it's going to help so many people put two and two together about their own journeys as to like where they are and realize that no, you're not going crazy. Yes, this is happening, and also have a confirmation, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Valeria. I love you.
You're so welcome. Bye-bye. All right. I hope you guys really enjoy this podcast, this great conversation that we had here with Emily. Isn't she amazing? She has such an amazing, beautiful energy that I felt from the moment that I met her. And yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of what's going on in my world. If you are feeling called to do extra work with me or in your spiritual journey, just send me a message and connect with me, and then we can talk about what will be the best way or the best fit for you. Because one of my gifts, which is my signature program here, is which is called Activate Your Spiritual Gifts, is that everyone who works with me long-term in this container activates their gifts. And I've had people who are healers work with me and have already had that connection with their own spiritual gifts, and they come into my world and those spiritual gifts become super enhanced and expanded, And they also tap into different gifts that they were not aware that were there or available for them. So that's what happens for people who are already connected and already working with their own spiritual gifts. And there are people who have come into my world who have said, hey, I would like to do something like what you do, but I don't have any gifts. And of course, we are all born with gifts and we all have them. And so that's what I do. We do deep healing. And when we're doing this deep healing, then I also show you and confirm your spiritual gifts as they're coming out and teach you how to expand on them and really put them to use, which is one of the things that your soul wants to do. So on that, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming here and listening to the podcast. Please subscribe, leave a review if you like this, and please share with others so that more people can get the message. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.